Hey everyone, I'm Jennifer Purcell with Spark Flash Fiction, and we are here today to chat with Stacy St. George about her story, Sneak Attack, in our issue, Love is Child's Play. Stacy is a writer from beautiful North Idaho who started her writing journey in grade school, where she found her love of reading. She still loves to read and is involved in several writers' groups. She and her husband live on the Pend Oreille River where they love interacting with nature. They are parents to three grown children and grandparents to three grandchildren. Stacy is also involved in small groups and mission work at church. With a BA in Business/English from Washington State University, she recently retired from healthcare administration. When not writing, she enjoys hiking, skiing, paddleboarding, and cooking. Her debut novel, Love, Emily, released in April of this year. So, Stacy, let's start with my favorite question. I love asking writers this question. What was the inspiration behind Sneak Attack?
Well, kids do the darndest things. And my mom owned a daycare from the time I was in middle school, well into my college and married years. And I worked there from middle school through college. And so I have many, many stories of children. And I was a tomboy growing up. I rode bicycles with my brother, motorcycles, caught tadpoles, etc. And so what came to mind was just two kids hatching a plan that went completely awry, but worked in the end.
I love that because you're right. Kids really do the craziest things.
They do.
Um,
With no regard to consequences sometimes when they're younger.
no, none at all. Now, this is obviously a contemporary romance, but I'm curious, is contemporary your favorite subgenre of romance, or do you find yourself reading a different subgenre in your spare time?
I read everything, but I think contemporary is my favorite. I love the happy ever after, the sweet ending, even if there's some trial and um, drama in the middle. I love that everything works out. So yes, contemporary is my jam.
I love that you mentioned that you like it when everything works out in the end because books are such like a perfect form of escape because sometimes life's problems aren't tied up so neatly. So I'm curious, what are some books you've read recently that you just like thoroughly enjoyed and were like the perfect escape?
Well, Courtney Walsh, I was able to take a class from her, I think last summer, and I love her writing. Also, Becky Wade, who I was also blessed to be able to take a class from. Her Sons of Scandal series is really fun. Lots of drama, but still you have that, oh, okay, everything's okay. Because like you said, there's even in life there's so many sad things that we read, see, happen to us, experience, that at the end of the day I just want things to work out for someone. um, a super escape for me is Irene Hannon's
Ooh,
Hope Harbor series. I just finished her last one, number 11, and it's a definite feel good read.
yes, definitely. I love that series. Speaking of which, based on the cover of your novel, Love, Emily, I'm sensing like a similar kind of coastal vibe. So tell me a little bit about Love, Emily.
Love Emily was a book I started when my children were young, and they are now parents themselves. So this has been a book long in the making. Not surprisingly, based on the picture in the background, my story is set in Hawaii. Just because it's a favorite place of mine, and it's magical. It's a beautiful place for a setting. But in Love, Emily, my characters definitely face some heartbreak, loss, kind of a second chance romance trope. Um, but it, it just details the journey, really through grief and finding love again.
Yeah, I love that. Not mentioning the second chance trope, romance, we have like so many different tropes, and we all tend to have like at least one that we read voraciously. So I'm curious, do you love second chance romance, or is that something that just happened to find its way into the story because it was just right for your characters?
I would say both, Jennifer. I do like to read that, um, but this story did lend itself well to that trope for both of the characters. You have something difficult, heartbreaking happen, and you're mired in that grief and that, will I ever be happy again? Will my life ever feel normal again? And I enjoy watching that happen, both in real life and for my characters.
Yeah. Do you have any other tropes that you really love and you find yourself kind of leaning towards?
Oh, the enemies to friends to more is always a wonderful escape. Really, those are the ones that I tend to read. But I guess I don't necessarily pick a book just because of the trope. I tend to find an author I like and then read all of their stuff, historical, you know, World War II. Liz Tolsma. I had the honor of meeting her this last spring at a conference, and her next series is based on World War II with ships coming out of Pearl Harbor after it was bombed, and that struck a chord. So I guess I say I lean towards one, but really I'll read anything.
Now, you mentioned conferences, and then you said earlier that you got to take classes from Becky Wade and Courtney Walsh. So I'm assuming that you got to pick up some really good advice along the way. So I'm wondering, what's the best piece of writing advice that you've ever received?
So when I started this journey, I retired from my, I don't want to say real job, but the one that makes you money and pays the bills, and was given this opportunity to devote myself full time to writing. I kind of just jumped in with both feet, and I met a gal. Her name is Sunny Jeffers through a Bible study group, and everybody's like, "Oh, you like to write? You need to meet Sunny." And she wrote a lot for Guideposts. And so I am an introvert. As many writers are. So I really have to push myself to meet people. I'm getting better at it through practice, lots of practice. And so I went up to her and I said, what do I do? How do I start? She goes, well, first write, and that seems like a no-brainer, but I feel like that's really true. Whether you're working on a manuscript, journaling, a thankfulness list, just write every day. Take a little bit of time and write. And then the second thing that really helped me was be connected. So I did that through finding a locals writers group and then joining some of the national writers groups. And then I went to my first smaller conference. It was regional up here in the Northwest. And then that summer, I went to ACFW, which was an amazing experience, completely overwhelming to a newbie, but the connections I made for people to read my work were amazing. Then another piece of advice would be to submit your work to contests. It can be brutal, it can be discouraging, but what I took out of it is this is a way to learn and grow from people who've done what I want to do. So
I
I
like
guess that's
that.
more than one piece.
I mean, I don't think you can ever have too much good advice, but I will say, when I first started out, what was overwhelming is all the terms that they would throw out
Yes.
at me
Yes.
that I had to learn. And one of the ones that took me aback is you have your plotters and your pantsers, but then someone called them discovery writers and organic writers and all this stuff. But I'm
Oh,
just curious because everyone has their own process, and I learned it's a spectrum. No one's on one side or the other. So I'm curious, where do you fall on that? And do you find that it's different depending on what project you're working on at the time?
yep. My first one, I didn't do as much planning on that manuscript as I've done on the one since. I've learned that I do well with a broad outline, maybe even scene descriptions, and definitely outlining my characters.
Mhm.
Um, that helps me. And then I would lean a little bit more towards the pantser. I don't have every single thing mapped out before I write. And sometimes, as you know, characters go their own way. And you kind of have to follow. Sometimes they misbehave.
They're kind of like children that way. You have a
They
plan, and
are.
then they don't
I
follow
agree.
the guidelines.
Yeah,
Um,
which makes it fun, and sometimes that makes for a better story.
mhm, it does. Now, are you like a morning writer? Are you an early bird and you get up and write early in the morning, or are you a night owl when everyone else is asleep and you're working hard?
I've always been an early bird. My grandmother was. She would get up at 4:30 a.m. And while that's a little too early for me, I tend to get up with the sun. And
Mhm.
even in the winter, when it gets dark at 4:30, I could go to bed and be fine. So yes, I'm much more creative. I get a lot more done if I start out early. Now, if I'm really on a roll and it's late afternoon going into evening, I don't have a problem continuing, but to try to come up with new things or to start, I'm not good after about 6.
Now, are you the type of writer that has like a routine? Because I've heard some writers they have like a certain tea that they drink and a snack that they have very specific music that they listen to help them get in the zone. Or are you the kind that just sits down and gets at it?
When I was writing Love Emily, with it being based in Hawaii, I love to put on Hawaiian music.
Ooh.
Um, Water is probably my drink of choice unless it is the morning. And then I'll have a little bit of coffee, but usually when I'm writing, it would be tea because I don't want to be too wired. Um, and I love all candles. So a sense of Hawaii, kind of just promote that
Mhm.
uh, free flowing thought. And my other two books that I'm working on right now are one is set in Hawaii and one is set in San Francisco. And so I'm not sure what scent of candle I'd burn for San Francisco. Chocolate, maybe, for Ghirardelli.
Ooh, that's a good choice. Now these other books that you're working on, are they connected to Love Emily or is Love Emily a standalone?
Love Emily is the first in a series of three. The second is called The Bakery on Front Street, and I'm in the middle of that one. And then the other one that I'm working on, kind of as a project, my friend and I were doing a book in a month challenge. Um, and we started it a year ago, so that didn't work out. But it's all the way outlined, it's all the scenes are detailed. And that one is a Christmas novella set in San Francisco. So uh, different projects, and I kind of been going back and forth on them as time permits.
I'd say I'm a sucker for a good Christmas book. I'll read them in April. It
Me
doesn't
too.
matter.
I know. And I start looking for them in October, to gear myself up for the season. They're fun.
Speaking of reading, are you more of a paperback reader, an ebook reader, an audiobook lover, or do you just read whatever you can get your hands on, no matter the format?
Well, I love paperback or hardback if the budget allows. My very favorites, I probably have the majority of those in hardback, but the paperback versions have overrun my house. I got a whole bunch of library shelves built for me one year for my birthday,
Ooh.
and they are beautiful. They have cupboards underneath. They hold tons of books. It's all one wall of a small room, but I still have more. So years ago when they first came out, my husband bought me an e-reader, and which is good because I think I have 700 or 800 books on there. And that would be my other piece of advice for people. If you want to write, you need to read
Mhm.
a lot. But yes, I guess my final answer, Jennifer, would be I read whatever, whenever. I haven't gotten hooked on audiobooks as much. Sometimes for me, the person telling the story colors my imagination in some ways, but for car rides, etc., I know that those are very helpful for people.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say, as much as I like paperbacks, I will say the ebook is very convenient because, like you said, it holds
Yep.
so many books. And so when I'm on vacation and I finish one
Yep.
book, I can just go right on to
Yeah.
another. So that's always nice. But a paperback or a hardback never run out of batteries.
No, they don't. And I mean, while you might need a book light, you usually have your phone, so you can use that. I usually travel with at least one paperback tucked in my bag wherever, just in case of technology issues. But even on your phone, you can read or your tablet. I mean, it's so convenient.
Yeah,
It's so accessible. So,
I agree. All right, before we close out, where is the best place for a reader to find you, Stacy?
my website, which is wordsbystacy.com. My book is on Amazon, or you can get it from my website, a signed author copy, by clicking on
Mhm.
the signed copy. Um, and I do have a blog that comes out every other week and a quarterly newsletter. So I try to keep people updated on what's going on in my life. I was invited to do a book signing at a bookstore this coming weekend that I had, kind of introduced myself, taken a copy to them, and they invited me to place my books there. So I did that about 2 weeks ago, and then I got an email, and they said, "Hey, would you like to come and do a book signing for Bookstore Romance Day?" So that is coming up this Saturday at the Well Red Moose in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Oh, that's exciting.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, I think I read a book set there.
You could have. There's some fun authors that live in the area in Idaho. It's beautiful and rugged. It's about an hour from where we are, but it's a wonderful place for scenes set in the mountains, or
Mhm.
for canine searches, for search and rescue. Just because there are a lot of places for people to get lost. Uh,
I love that. So much inspiration around you. No wonder you're a writer. You just couldn't help it, could you?
yeah, no, not really. It was in me somewhere and needed to come out.
I understand that completely. Well, everyone that's watching, thank you for joining us. Be sure that you go and check out Stacy's website and also go to our website, spark-fiction.com, so that you can read her story and hear about the fun shenanigans that her characters get up to in her story, Sneak Attack. You can find that in our summer issue, Love is Child's Play, always available for free. Be sure to follow her on all of the channels that she mentioned, including her newsletter, and never stop reading.
Thank you, Jennifer.